Hi everyone, I'm back with my first guest, Marlies Ledbetter. Thank you for being here. And she's with the Indie Hemp Company. So we're going to talk about CBD and other things that can really help you focus, get a good night's rest, whatever it has. Get rid of some anxiety, some stress. But first, I'd like to ask you a little bit about yourself personally and kind of what led you to this. It's your family life, your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
What are things that you're passionate about?
Sure. I mean, kind of loaded question.
Yeah, it is. But I like to get all that out because it always kind of ties into who you are as a person, kind of ties into what you do for a living.
Yeah. So I am a daughter of a Vietnam vet who struggles with massive PTSD. And he was exposed to Agent Orange in Vietnam. And so when I was born, I had a massive amount of complications that continued as I got older. I was on 13 different medications before I had a big seizure. They put me in the hospital with a traumatic brain injury. And at that moment, it was really imperative for me to be looking for a more holistic route because it was not sustainable for my health. I noticed that I was getting sick more often. The medications were having more side effects than they were helping. And when I fell into CBD kind of around 10 years ago, and I've always been a cannabis advocate, but CBD was really the first for me to really understand how to not be high and get healthy, right? And so my husband and I started investing in CBD, and we created a consultancy practice that's mainly based on education for the cannabis industry, so that people can get private consultations and learn how and why CBD works, how to utilize it, if it interferes with medications and things like that. So it's more of a boutique firm, but we train people all over the country. We train medical professionals, and so my job is to make sure that people understand the right way to use it and the truth about cannabis, because we've been told lies for about 100 years.
Oh, absolutely. And I think people are like, okay, it's a drug. It's going to, I'm going to test positive for hemp, marijuana, THC, and things like that. So I think, there's a lot of misconceptions about CBD.
Sure.
I think, the one main thing, I think a lot of people use it for sleep and insomnia and things like that. But the way it can tie into medications and maybe get you off of some of those mainstream medications that are, they damage your liver, your kidneys, all those things that your body has to process.
Absolutely. And it's totally safe. There's been studies done that have said that it's dangerous for the liver, but they've been debunked. And when they do these types of clinical studies on rats, they're using like huge amounts of CBD, and no human would be able to ingest that much. So, but it is safe for any age, and our bodies actually develop the system that works with cannabis in utero. So even during pregnancy and breastfeeding, it's safe. You just always want to make sure that you're using a product that is really, really clean, that's sourced well. The brand that I work is USDA certified organic. So we own our farm, we farm the farm, we make the products, we do all of our own research and clinicals, and we have a medical team. So you're getting the very, very best of the best, and I wouldn't possibly put my name on something if it wasn't the absolute best brand that you could get a hold of. And then I teach thousands of people in our company how to sell and help other people with CBD products mainly, but we consider ourselves a hemp brand. And there are products that can test positive for a drug test. So we make sure that we ask those questions during the consult. Is there any reason for you to be tested? And then we have products that do not contain THC that will not show up on any type of drug test. And then I can even dive deeper into what kind of drug test they've had or what kind of job they have, because a pilot is going to have a very different drug test than a nurse. Right? A pilot is considered a heavy hauler. They're carrying like hundreds of lives into the sky, so they're going to have a very different drug test than a nurse or a teacher, right? So we have to look into that as well before we give our recommendations.
Okay. What is the difference between marijuana and hemp?
Yeah, so they're both the same species, just like you and I are both Homo sapiens. So there's a difference in the genetic makeup of the plant. So the best way to consider it is like you could drink wine that has alcohol, right? And it has all those great flavonoids and things that are anti-aging, and red wine and grapeseed extract. Those are so great for our health. They could like literally stop you from aging. But the alcohol is bad for you, right? So in terms, that would be like what we would consider marijuana, not the same, right? Because it's not necessarily a bad plant. But CBD or hemp would be more predominant in like it cannot get you high. You're not going to feel sedated. It doesn't, you can have operate heavy machinery, things like that. So they're of the same species, but they're cousins. And so the way that the federal guidelines are is the amount of THC that the product has in it is specified, whether it's marijuana or hemp. But the grower may be thinking just cannabis as a whole, right? We're just cannabis growers.
What are some of the things that CBD can be used for?
Sure.
I mean, I know that there's, hundreds of things, but kind of what are like, I guess, the main things that every person might be dealing with?
Yeah, I would say the number one reason people come to me is for sleep and anxiety or stress levels. We were discussing earlier how if your cortisol levels are high, stress levels are high, your immune system shuts off. And so we see a lot of people that have chronic sickness because of their stress levels. So if we can control those chemical productions, it's really, really helpful. Obviously, chronic pain, any type of inflammatory disorder, if you look at almost any type of disease, it has an inflammation marker with it. And so for it to work as like a level of a steroid, we're able to bring that inflammation down and get them more comfortable very fast. We work with certain types of disorders like autism, ADHD, spectrum types of disorders. And then my specialty is in like multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, and neurodegenerative disorders. Some of my first clients ever were people that were coming to me that were dying. And every single person that we've worked with over the past years with different types of protocols and health and wellness things integrated. We don't just do cannabis. We integrate a lot of other practitioners. We've been able to either stop their disease or slow it down. And that for some people is life-changing. I mean, it was life-changing for me that having scoliosis and degenerative disc disorder and neuropathy and pain that would, easily put me in the hospital multiple times is stopped. Because we've gotten to the root of the issue. And the reason for that is the way that it interacts with receptors in our body. And every single part of your body has an endocannabinoid receptor. So literally cannabis can access every single point of your body, whether your hormones, your muscle tissue, your bone, your nerve, your brain, your endocrine system, everything is accessed with CBD. And that's why it's able to do literally thousands of things.
It's like so funny. Like in my mind, I'm like, my head's going off. Like I have a client right now that's talking about she's had like 9 discs fused, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I just don't want to go through that surgery again. And they're talking about doing it again. And she's in extreme pain. Then I have 2 people, a client and friends that parents have been diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's this year. And it's just kind of crazy. I mean, that it happened, you don't know much about it. And then all of a sudden it comes at the same time. So I'm just thinking of all these people that I could possibly connect with you to.
And we can't ever say that it like cures, prevents, or stops any disease. But if we can make them feel better, if we can give somebody a better quality of life, I mean, that can open an entire world for them. And I know that's what happened to me. I mean, I was in corporate America, very successful, and having this outlet and realizing how much this could change somebody's life, I had to put a stop to what I was doing and go in a different direction, because every day I wake up knowing that what I do and how and who I work with, I could totally change someone's life, like rapidly, or even save them. So a lot of people come to us with depression and issues that have been chronic for a long time, and if we can keep them off the ledge, metaphorically, I mean, that is probably the greatest gift that you can give to a parent or just
not all of it makes you sleepy, right? So
no,
there's stuff that you can function with during the day that's fully functionable, that can help you just instead of an antidepressant or something, you can just be taking CBD.
Yes, and it's not a sedative, so it depends on the dosing, but typically average dosing will not make you sedated. So some people will be different. Like it makes me hyped up, and that's good because I have memory and focus and structure, because I do suffer from attention deficit. And so during the day, it keeps me going, but in the nighttime, my body naturally settles down into sleep because my melatonin production, my cortisol levels are down, everything is regulated really well. Some people prefer to take their CBD at night because it does relax them, but it doesn't sedate them. You can wake up in the middle of the night, no problem. And it's such a better thing to grab before grabbing melatonin that will give you bad nightmares and stuff, or even like things like, sleep meds that will interrupt your sleep cycles completely and not allow restorative sleep, which is where all of the magic happens in terms of healing.
So is there different types, that you
sure.
would take a different one maybe during the day, that gets you a little more energy, that keeps you, and then one at night?
There can be. There's different compounds in the plant that can give you different feelings.
Effects.
But those are actually called terpenes, and terpenes are like the essential oil of the plant. So if you think of lavender sedates you, it makes you relaxed. There's a terpene in it called linalool, and linalool is also in cannabis. And so if that terpene profile in that blend is higher in linalool, it's going to make people more relaxed. And so anybody that makes it, they can change the compounds around. But mostly I tell people CBD is CBD is CBD. It's going to help you be awake. It's going to help you fall asleep. It's going to help you in everything in between. You just have to find the right dose for you and the timing of the day that you need for the things that you want to fix. I really highly suggest people not buy CBD that contains melatonin unless it's just for a minor reset, like if they're changing time zones or they're traveling. But other than that, melatonin shouldn't be used for more than 3 days. And a lot of people don't know that.
No.
So I've been like really pushing that on social media so that people that follow me can figure out, what to do and how to live a really healthy life without utilizing so many different supplements that interrupt each other.
Absolutely. And I know that, most of us have busy lives and our day-to-day lives are just so busy. So it's like, it's hard to focus or hard to get things going, or at night just to kind of decompress and relax, I mean, in real estate, we're just going all the time. So it's like one of those things at night, it's like, okay, I'm still stimulated because my day is so busy that it's, my husband always laughs at me because he's like, you get more energy throughout the day than the average person. Usually he comes home from the gym, he's crashing. I go to the gym and I'm like, okay, I'm ready. What are we doing tonight? Where are we going? I'm like, I come back really pumped from the gym.
No, I'm a night owl too. And it's really good. I noticed the biggest thing that it does is it keeps my mind from having too many thoughts. Okay. And so I can really structure them and fall asleep and be a little bit healthier. You don't want an overly racing mind. It's okay. Like, nowadays you want to be able to get things done, and I'm extremely productive. So people are like, oh, if you take it, are you going to be sleepy and not productive? Absolutely not. I am highly productive, if not more productive. Okay,
because it helps you focus a little bit more and helps you. So tell me, like, how do people kind of find out what products are good and are bad? I mean, how do you kind of test that? Like, or when you're just going in a store, there's so many stores, every corner.
Yeah, every corner. It's gotten a little bit out of hand.
If you pay attention to it, then you see it. It's kind of like when I got into real estate. Like before real estate, I never really noticed everyone's real estate signs, but now every time you're driving down the street, you're like, ooh, that house just went up. That house just went up. But I think like once you're looking for CBD or even inquiring about it, you notice
it's everywhere.
CBD
and it's very unregulated. It's a completely unfederally oversighted market, which is good and bad. We don't want necessarily the government's hands in everything. I mean, that's already been a problem for 100 years in prohibition. But it's really, really important for people to know what things to look for. So you want a company that obviously has sourcing information about their farm. You want it to be U.S. based. Anything overseas can contain massive amounts of pesticides, even radioactive material in China and Japan and things like that.
That's scary.
Number two, you want to make sure it's third-party tested so that there is a lab report attached to the bottle, and you want to look at the ingredients. If there's 15 ingredients or more than 5, typically that's a red flag. And you want to know about the company. Does it have a website that's legitimate? I mean, a lot of people are going to be getting these emails sent to their homes or text messages about CBD, and you buy it and there's actually no viable company attached to it. And this is a lot of times coming from overseas, and we see it on Amazon even. People are buying products that aren't even CBD. It's just hemp oil, or it's not even hemp oil. It's just a bottle of cooking oil that you paid $45 for. So it's really, really important that you do your research, and you can go to my website, indiehempco.com, and pull up things to look for. I also have a free download of a getting started guide that'll tell you the difference between hemp and marijuana, what to look for, how to dose yourself, what to look for in a lab report, and then also the things to buy, to look for when you're buying a product. So we try to set people up for success even without a consultation. So I like to come with as much education as possible on my social media and my website so that people have a one-stop shop to ask questions, and then they can also message us and get one of our staff to answer any question about cannabis, really.
Yeah, I love that. I like to do the same thing. If you go to my website, you're going to see all the resources, all the people that I've had on my show, everything else, people that you can contact for all kinds of things, and just be that resource for people that they don't have to just call you, I need this or I need that, that they can just go
We
get
want
the
to meet
information.
everybody where they're at. I mean, the world has changed a lot and everyone's on their phones. And so we want to make sure that our information is accessible and that we can point people into the right direction. So it might not be my video, but a video from a doctor that talks about how it works with certain medications and things like that.
Where do you sell your products? Is it just online, or do you do like markets on the weekends?
I have a team of over 400 people,
Oh,
so
wow.
we have people all over the country selling in all different ways. Online specifically, we have people that are practitioners that sell it in their offices. We have people that do markets. It's really word of mouth, I would say, mostly. We switched really to e-commerce right before COVID happened, and I'm so glad that we did, because we probably would have been out of business because we weren't considered essential. When they first started opening businesses, cannabis was actually kind of the opposite of like non-essential.
Which is probably the time that most people needed it
yeah,
the
right.
most, because everyone's stressed out to the max. So it's
And
probably
in states that are legal, it was considered essential because these are people's medications. And people have to realize, like, regardless of what you think of it, it's not an addictive drug, it's not dangerous, and it's really, really healthy and is actually saving people's lives. And we just have to get the word out there so that we can start the government and everybody else thinking the same way, because people out there really need these products. And so we just highly suggest that you reach out to local people, find out what products they're working with, and support each other's businesses, because that's the best thing that you can really do is support, a stay-at-home mom or a teacher, or somebody that maybe has a side hustle, or a practitioner that has a really well background in the wellness and health industry.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for
course.
coming on the show. We're definitely going to see a little bit more with her in a few minutes after next guest. We're going to combine together to see how you can balance even more your life and your wellness. So we'll be right back after this commercial break.